everybody that was on the Prism side, or I mean on the Twitch side. Hello, we're back. Yep, we're back. Welcome back, silly. Now, right before I lost it, there was a message that popped up saying that I was dead wrong about Washington, D.C. area, the 10 square mile radius, the 10 square mile area there, that is not American soil. Well, I'd like to challenge that person. I challenge them to go to any public library where they still have old history books and look it up, because it is true. 10 square miles that is now the middle of Washington, D.C. does not belong to the United States. It belongs to Washington, D.C. It belongs to the U.S. government, not America itself. Everything else belongs to the states of the United States. This is why Washington, D.C. cannot ever be a state, because not any one state shall have any governance over any other state. It's in the Constitution. That is also why you literally on Washington, D.C. property, within that 10 square miles, you have no rights as an American citizen. Literally, they can do anything they want. That's why no one is allowed to have any weapons of any kind in Washington, D.C., regardless of the Second Amendment. That's why they do not allow concealed carry permits unless you are a government employee. And of course, YouTube chose to kill my live stream a minute ago. Of course, it only died on the YouTube side. On the Twitch side, it didn't die until I had to end the stream in order to be able to reboot YouTube. Freedom for all. You just unsubbed PR. Who's PR? I mean, I have a few guesses, but I know quite a few different streamers who happen to have those same two letters. Oh, I know. Never mind. Never mind. You don't have to type it. I know. It took me a second. It took me a second. Yep. So, I know Silly's in here. Silly, go ahead and drop my link for the Twitch, so that if and when YouTube decides to kill my stream again, people know that they can go to Twitch and I'm still going to be there. A lot of things happen in this country that we never know. Especially when it comes to our government. There are so many backdoor deals that happen within our government that the people of this country never know. sent me an email. Well, Freedom for All, I don't have an email from you. My email is blackwolf. Here, let me put it up. Silly's probably got it, but I don't know. Yep. There you go. There's my email. And you know what? Yeah, it has my first name at the back of Black Wolf. So what? Do you have any idea how many people in this country are named Chris? Welcome back, Jesse. Now, right before the YouTube crashed, there was a guy that popped up there saying I was dead wrong about Washington, D.C. being a 10 square mile area that is not owned by the United States. It is clearly labeled out in the United States Constitution that no one governing body shall have control, no one state shall have any control, no governance over any other state. That is why 10 square miles was carved out that became Washington, D.C. That 10 square miles is owned by the U.S. government, not the United States of America. That 10 square miles is not owned by any one particular state. Some of those states have re-annexed in some of their little areas, or partial parts of it. The thing is, when they did that, they're taking that land away from the United States government. The government itself owns that property. The United States of America does not own that property. It is not owned by this country. It is owned by this country's government. And solely for the fact that in the U.S. Constitution it states no one state in particular shall have any governance whatsoever over another state. That is exactly why Washington, D.C. can never be a state. Exactly, Jesse. Exactly. So that guy that came in and called me a liar and told me I didn't know what I was talking about, right there. Right there, Jesse. You have the proof that I was not lying and I did know what I was talking about. So, January 6th. Did you see it when you were watching all that stuff on January 6th happen as it happened? Did you see an insurrection? Or did you see a massive amount of people wanting to get in and oversee and make sure that what was being done was what was right? Because in my book, an insurrection involves a lot of firearms. It involves a lot of prisoners. It involves, a lot of people being taken hostage, if you would say. It involves people dying. A lot of people. I didn't see an insurrection. The only guns, the only firearms I saw belonged to all the law enforcement. I saw law enforcement open the doors to the building and wave people to come on in. Standing on one side outside the Capitol in hundreds, just waiting to be told to come and get them. Instead, those riot police should have been standing out in front of those doors instead of standing off to the side, and they should have kept everybody out from the start. Pelosi had plenty of warning ahead of time and everything that she could have had a lot of extra security there that day, and she chose not to. Yep. Well, you know what I saw? That they played a video on the first day of these hearings of how everybody progressed towards the Capitol and into the Capitol. Okay? And they tried to show time frames of while Trump was speaking versus when these people came in. And they're trying to say that these people came in after Trump's speech. They were going in from the very beginning of Trump's speech. They were already inside the building while Trump was still on stage. But what I saw, you've got one fence and they push through after being sprayed by the cops. You've got another barrier that's kind of like bicycle wrap or bicycle rack type looking barriers. And these barriers are locked together and everything, and they've got cops behind them. What I saw seconds before they broke through that barrier, literally seconds before they broke through that barrier, you have cops sticking tear gas, pepper spray into the crowd and firing them. I mean, if I were in that crowd, I would have pushed towards the cops too to try to get them to stop with the pepper spray. That moment right there is when it was declared a riot by the police departments. So, who really instigated and started the riot? Was it the people? Was it Trump himself? Or was it the police that were shooting pepper spray into the crowd that was all standing against one fence line? You decide. You tell me what you think. Yes, Mobo, they let it happen. They even encouraged it to happen. Well, see, they know exactly what an insurrection is, but they also know if they use that word, they know that 90% of this country is so believing in what their television tells them that when the word insurrection is used, it's got to be pretty bad. Just like just like using fear to control the people. I'd love to see any footage that shows any one of them carrying guns, because they weren't. I would love to see any proof that those were Proud Boys. I would love to see any proof that those were Oath Keepers. The fact remains, they're not providing proof of who and what those people were. They're only displaying them as what they say they were. They're not, there's no proof that those people were anything. And those current videos that they're coming out with those things, well, see, here's what's funny. They're showing these Oath Keepers, or who they're calling Oath Keepers, and they're showing these Proud Boys, or who they're calling Proud Boys, in a group, both in separate groups, right? And they're showing them in all this body armor and everything else before going in. But if you pay attention to the videos of when they're entering the building, and you pay attention to the videos that they're showing here in the hearings, look at them. They say that this person, they even identify the person in the group when they have that group photo of all the people in body armor and everything else, is that person. And then when people are entering the building on camera, they highlight that one person and say that that is that same person, but you realize that person is in regular civilian clothes, not wearing any of that body armor. There's a huge disconnect right there. We just filmed this so that we can say that this is what this person was, but then they forget to show that person actually wearing the same clothes they were wearing when they went into the Capitol building. Because on video, every single one of those people that they highlighted and said this is who this was and this is who this was, every single one of them is in completely different clothes than the pictures that were supposedly taken of them, or the videos that were supposedly taken of them while they were standing outside. At what point did those people, while marching down the street and to the Capitol building, did they have to change their clothes? Yep, you're right, Jesse. I've seen that too. And Kathy, yeah. They opened up the doors and waved everybody to come on in. And those doors can only be opened from the inside. Not to mention, by the exact time frames, if you take a look at the videos of what was going on inside the House floor that day, looking at Mike Pence and all of the different representatives from all the different states, you take a look at the exact time that Senator Ted Cruz, stepped up with these giant stack of paper, basically a giant book of all of the evidence of election fraud. And the moment he set it down on the table in order to submit it as evidence as to why his state was going to recount, they were going to decertify their vote, okay? That was being placed into evidence at the same moment that those doors were opened and people were waved in. And isn't it funny how every single politician magically was not on the floor or in that building within seconds? All the video angles from the House floor show nothing but national security officers, bodyguards, and police manning the doors around the House floor. But you don't see any of the politicians in there. How did they magically disappear? Yeah, they did call us rioters, but you know what? Even that didn't make national news, Jesse, remember? They basically had a full media blackout on us, and all we were doing was driving around the Beltway with flags and air horns. No, I'm not misinformed. Tell me exactly where I am misinformed, because I've seen these videos. I actually watched live feeds the day that this was happening. So if my eyes were lying to me on live streamed video, if my eyes were lying to me, let me know. Matter of fact, here, Emerson, check this out. I suggest, Emerson, you go and get cover to cover. You read it from cover to cover. You do it 5 or 6 times, and you make sure you have a full understanding of everything in it. Then tell me I'm misinformed. Because everything I'm stating that is what they can and cannot do. Everything I'm stating about the Washington, D.C. area and whether the U.S. government can be a state by itself. Tell me, does this provide for any of that? No, it does not. Everything I'm talking about is right here. Well, you know what? What if someone already staged those windows to be breakable and then turned around and told somebody exactly which windows to hit? Because guess what? It's a well-known fact that all of those windows are supposed to be bomb-proof. They refitted those windows, they refitted the doors, they refitted the walls to be bomb-proof. I'm sorry, it is not possible for somebody to take a riot shield and smash a bomb-proof window. It's not possible, unless it was jerry-rigged and planned in the first place. Republicans refused to investigate because they knew what was done. Because the only investigation, okay, so when the Democratic Party came up and said, this is what we're going to investigate, they outlined an exact path that only comes to one conclusion. And that comes to banning President Trump from ever running for any offices in this country ever again. And it paints him as a seditious, treasonous person, which gives him the death penalty. Right? This is all geared towards an attack on a political opponent that could still run for office. Everything that they put on the paper that they were wanting to investigate was 100% geared towards political assassination. It's a monkey show. That's why the Republican side would not investigate. The reason they wouldn't investigate is because every idea they came up with of things that needed to be investigated, which would have proved so much and would have shown how much of a kangaroo circus this is, was denied. Everything they wanted to investigate was denied. So they said, no, we're not going to investigate. And I am sorry, but you cannot legally, according to the Constitution, you cannot legally be doing what they're doing with these hearings right now, with everything only on one side. You can't legally do it. Everything they are doing right now is against the Constitution, and I'm holding it right here in my hands. I just showed you. I suggest you get one of these and you read it from cover to cover until you fully understand it. BMCT, if they succeed in what they're trying to do right now with this J6 committee, 2024 is not going to be pretty because Trump won't be allowed to run. This is an attempted political assassination. They were offered, yes, but they were offered under certain conditions. Only certain things could be investigated. So basically, the Democrats came to them with, here is our evidence. Here is what we say happened. And this is all that can be investigated. We want you we're offering you the ability to sit in on this. When the Republicans say, well, what about this, and this? Well, that's not what we're going to investigate. That's not what's going to be part of this. Of course, they're not going to partake. So, if I came to you, and said, okay, we're going to go out to an ice cream parlor, and say we take you to 31 flavors, right? And then we tell you, we're going to buy the ice cream. And then you get your heart set on the ice cream that you want. And then we tell you, but we're only going to buy you the pistachio nut ice cream. That's all you can get. Are you really willing to go and get pistachio nut ice cream when what you really want is the Cherries Jubilee? That is exactly what they did to the Republicans in trying to set up the investigation hearings in the first place. That's why the Republicans refused. And don't get me wrong, I am a firm believer that there is no party. Republican Party, Democrat Party, doesn't matter. They're all pushing one agenda. They're all in it to line their own pockets. I am a firm believer that every single person in this country should stop voting for any politician that has had 2 or more terms in any one given seat. Because Congress and Senate used to have term limits. They did. They used to. They got together with each other and they sat down and they wrote this special little bill that got rid of the term limits in the Senate and the Congress. And they waited for the right president to pass it. And they did the same thing with their own paychecks, by the way. Wouldn't you like to be able to walk into your boss who has been paying you minimum wage? Wouldn't you like to walk into him one day, look him straight in the face and say, now you pay me $40 an hour and you can't do shit about it because I say so? Wouldn't you like to be able to do that? Because that's exactly what the senators and the congressmen in this country have done. They are the ones that decide what their salaries will be. They vote on them themselves. They don't put it up to the people. Just like when they changed, when they got rid of the term limits, they voted on themselves and they did not put it up to the people. The people never had a chance to vote on that stuff. In my opinion, every single person sitting behind the bench at these hearings right now are the real traitors. See, congressmen and senators, they are elected by the people, for the people. Right? In other words, they are supposed to be representing the people of their state or their area, their county, or whatever, however their state breaks it up for them. They're supposed to be representing their people, and they're supposed to be listening to their people and doing what their people want because they are employed by their people. But somewhere along the line, it turned into, we are rulers, we're sitting on thrones, and you do what we tell you to do instead of being employed by us. Yeah, Jesse, they did offer a half of the committee up to the Republicans. The Republicans refused because the Republicans were told, but only under these circumstances. Only this type of evidence was allowed. Only this type of things were allowed to be investigated into. Period. They were given a strict, you can only do exactly what we want you to do. Are you going to sit on half of a committee when you're told that you can only do what they want you to do? Are you going to sit on half of a committee when you are told that here is the evidence as we see it, and that is that, and we're not going to allow you to bring in any other evidence to the contrary? Are you really going to sit on that committee? Not to mention, see, you got to remember, this is an election year. Not one single Republican that wants to be reelected would dare to sit on that committee. Because sitting on that committee would be political assassination for themselves. Good afternoon, American Patriot. Exactly, Jesse, and that's exactly how that went down. Miss Piggy, all right. Yep, it's all New World Order BS. For the same reason that every single one of the Democrats should be asking for pardons too. Emerson. "99% of the politicians in Congress and Senate are dirtier than you could even imagine." When it comes to the politicians of this country, where do you think they launder their money? Emerson, where are the people, where are the politicians of this country laundering their money? Can you answer that question? from their backdoor deals, by the way. Samantha, that would be nice. That would be nice, but see, somewhere along the line, the federal government made it illegal for anybody to sue any federal entity. Any governmental entity. You cannot literally sue any of them. The only time that any of the lawsuits against the U.S. government in any way, shape, or form have ever been brought about is when it was the U.S. government going after somebody else that had really good lawyers and a lot of money to stand up against them. But you cannot, you can try right now. You can go down to your local courthouse and you can try to file a lawsuit against any one of your politicians or against your state government. And guess what? It'll be denied. Yep. Every one of the lawsuits that's ever been brought against the U.S. military or any of the government positions anywhere in this country, they have all come about simply because that government entity had to go after the person that ended up winning in that suit. Or losing. Doesn't matter. That person did not have the ability to file against them. The government had to file against the other person. That's how those happen. The government can come after you in a lawsuit, but you can't go after them in your own. You can countersue if they try to go after you. That's how that works. Because they put these special rules and regulations and laws in place that make them exempt from suits. Good point, Jesse. Good point. Just like right now, because at the very moment that they opened those doors and let people in, was the same moment that Ted Cruz was slapping that gigantic pile of evidence down on the table to be submitted as proof of fraud as to why their state was going to decertify their vote and recount. The moment that he put that down was the same moment those doors opened. So, right now, because he was about to present that evidence at that moment, because of this committee and because of what they are after and because of what they are trying to paint the whole picture as and make all those people involved a criminal, that also makes Ted Cruz a criminal because he was bringing in that evidence. He was part of what they are claiming was an insurrection by trying to submit that evidence. That's why someone like him would have been asking for a pardon. Because they're trying to say what he was doing was also criminal or part of that criminal act that took place that day. All he was doing was providing the evidence and recount. So, if that's all you did, and now you run the risk of being called a treasonous traitor, a criminal traitor, involved in a criminal act because of doing what was right for your state, would you not want a pardon? Well, Emerson, there's a difference there. Why don't you go back and replay that video and slow it down? At one section where they broke a window. There's only one place right there where they broke a window next to the door to get in. Slow it down and watch the moment the door opens versus the moment the first person climbs in that window. Because that window was still almost in the windowsill at the time. Not a body was through that window yet when that door opened. On that side. On all the other sides, see, every one of those doors had people flooding in. Every door, all the way around the Capitol building. And from the angles that I was watching that day, as it happened, the doors opened and officers waved people to come in. Looks like I'm loaded. Yes, Jesse, she does need to watch it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but this warehouse and manufacturer here is a Procter & Gamble in Utah. So it could be a whole mix of stuff. Out, shut the doors, and then head for the gate and get my paperwork. Give me a minute here. I will be back. I now know what is in my trailer. It's a nice light load. No, I didn't pick up cheese. I picked up toilet paper and paper towels and all kinds of that stuff. Mostly paper towels. Mostly Bounty. There's a dip right there. 3. My destination is carrier name. Thank you. Thank you. You have a good day. All right, now we can get out of here. Hey, Garmin. Hey, Garmin, go home.
Which result would you like?
All right, here we go.
Please drive to highlighted route.
Actually, hey, Garmin. Go to Puyallup, Washington.
I found the result.
There you
Going to Puyallup, Washington. Please drive to highlighted route.
You asked where I'm going? Is that what you asked, BCMT? I'm going to Puyallup, Washington, if that's where you asked.
In 2 miles, turn left on Utah 83.
Interesting how there's 2 cars parked on the side here tracking people as they leave. And that's not normal. Especially that one in the gray one. As soon as I pulled out and turned left, she instantly picked up her phone and started texting. Not wanting to work unless I get some good suction against it at first. And even at that, it won't blow any better than low speed. So I got to replace that motor. What was weird, Jesse? I missed that. What was weird, Jesse? Now, I'm not low on Freon. They're blowing ice cold. The thing is that there's no fan pressure behind it.
In 1/4 mile,
So basically you can put your hand on the vent and feel the freezing cold, but there's not, the fan itself isn't spinning fast enough to really push it through the vent.
Turn left on Utah 83.
I need to replace the blower motor on it.
Continue on Utah 83. There's a lot of people that seem to know a lot more about, oh, see, that little gray, the dark gray one, not the silver one, but the gray one that just passed me, that's the same one that was just sitting outside of the, outside on the main street of P&G when of Procter & Gamble, where I just picked up. The same one that started texting the second she saw me come out and which direction I headed. And she turned around and came back following behind me and then just passed me. Well, good. Thank you, silly. reality is, it doesn't matter how much proof diluted and brainwashed, that they refuse to spout anything other than what their television told them. I've had it out. I've cleaned it. Matter of fact, last summer I took it out and cleaned it because it cooked completely. So, you know, and I'm talking about the blower motor itself, because this last fall I replaced the compressor and a couple of other things in the AC system for the refrigerator. O-ring seals and everything, vacuumed it down, and I filled it back up. I got it running to where it's blowing ice cold, and been good ever since. But I also, like I said, I took the blower motor out back then and cleaned it out and got it to work so it's blowing just barely. Until I get the time to sit down and actually go through and put in a new one. I just haven't taken the time to go buy a new one. See, the thing is, that car doesn't realize I just took a left turn. I guarantee that car was way past that intersection thinking I was going straight to the interstate that way because of the direction I came out. So that person thinks I'm going to be heading south. I'm not. Right now, I'm headed straight to I-15 this way and going northbound. Even my GPS didn't tell me to go down this road. It wanted me to go way. See, that's why a good truck driver never blindly follows their GPS. This road here is a truck route. But because it's not a main route, or a main road, it's more of a country road, most people and GPSs won't put you on it. Yeah, silly, we gotta set up a convoy to Rocklahoma. We do. Matter of fact, I was talking with X-Ray this morning on the phone about that. I was also talking with X-Ray this morning on the phone about he needs to get his truck down to Joe's, get it worked on. How many people, by show of hands, just put a waving hand up. Put a waving hand up. How many people have a pocket constitution that they can whip out and read anytime they want?
So here's a suggestion, everybody.